Hi there. Welcome to #Webinar Wednesday. This is our 65th webinar. I'm Doug Sesserman and privileged to serve as the Chief Executive Officer of Americans for Ben-Gurion University. Today we have a terrific program with two of our leading professors who not only do academic research, but also clinical support to help the community in the Negev and all of Israel. This webinar is entitled Hope in Action, Healing Israel's Youth, and features Professor Naama Atzabaparia and Professor Gal Meiri. As you saw in the video, BGU was directly and disproportionately impacted from everything, the events of October 7th and since, including the Iranian missile attack. And the truth is that we as a university, our students, our faculty, our staff, administration are all suffering from traumatic stress disorder. And there's nothing P post about it. The P in this case stands for perpetual. And today we're bringing two of our experts to help you understand the situation and see how the university is helping the community around us. Before we get started, I just want to thank my team at A4BGU for all the work they do behind the scenes to make these webinars and other events possible. In particular, I want to acknowledge Lenore Levine, Cheryl Corlitz, Blair Kahana, Andrew Lugo, Tali Goldshift, and Pamela Weinstein. Thank you for all your work. To the audience, I know a number of you have joined us before, but some are also joining for the first time. During the program, if you have a question, just click on the Q&A function and we'll be sure to get that question to our participants. So please be involved. We like it when the audience is involved. And I also want to just thank the more than 200 people that registered for this webinar. So we're going to start with Naama, and then we'll move to Gal. They'll each give brief presentations, and then we'll open it up to Q&A for the audience. This webinar is called for 45 minutes. Okay, so let's start with Professor Naama Atzabaparia, who I also call a friend. She's a development child psychologist, one of the most promising academicians at all of BGU. She's the founder and head of what's called the Duet Center at Ben-Gurion University, which is a model of both research and clinical support that helps parents under stressful situations help their children. One of the funders and benefactors of the center is Judge Leon Kaplan from Los Angeles. I hope he's joining us today as part of this program. It's a national model, the Duet Center, and she's going to tell you all about it. Naama is also has served as the chair of the Israeli Association for Infant Mental Health, and she did all her degree work except for her PhD at Ben-Gurion University, did her first and second degree at Ben-Gurion University, and then earned her PhD at the University of Surrey in the UK. She's a well-published author in many ways, both academically and clinical support books for infants and their families. She's part of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. So welcome, Naama.
Thank you, Doug. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. Here it's an evening time. We're still in a very stressful and difficult times every day. We have different news that put us again in stress. Our hostages are still there. Our soldiers are still there in the war. So it's very, very difficult to be in this situation where we have to talk about, research, clinical work, about, in a way, normal life. But what we do, both Gal and myself, our normal life is to deal with the difficulties that parents and children experience. By the way, Gal and I worked at Gal's unit, and he's going to tell more about that. And we share our work together. But I think that since October 7th, our work has become even more difficult. We experience so many cases of children that are at risk and children that have difficulties. And usually those children come with parents who have difficulties. And this is my aim at the Duet Center, my professional also mission as a child psychologist, to help those parents so that they can help better their children. And let me start with a small story about a family that I've been working with as part of the duet intervention that we do. So it was a family that was displaced, evacuated from a kibbutz in the south on October 7th to an hotel in Tel Aviv. And the mother told me the story where she, on October 7th, she stayed with the children for 12 hours in the shelter when the father was outside actually trying to protect the family. And then in a certain moment, the father called her and told her, now take the kids as quickly as you can and just evacuate. There is a way, just go drive as quickly as you can. So she took her 4-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son and put them in the car and then told them, just wait for a moment, I'm going to get grandpa from his house. He needed some help. And the daughter told her, but I don't want to stay alone here. And she said, you should, and take care of your brother. And she ran to take her father, and she told me, I knew that I'm now hurting my children for life. It's like a scratch, a mental one, but what could I have done? And she brought the father, and they drove as fast as they could from there. When I met her, she was already in an hotel, and then she tells me in a group intervention, we work a lot with group interventions, that her son keep acting very badly when they are driving. He swears, and her daughter, sorry, she swears, and she fight with her brother, and she doesn't know why. And she thought something happened to her. And she couldn't make the connection that for her daughter, being in the car is a trigger for the trauma. She couldn't do that because for her, as a mother, being in the car was also a trigger because she abandoned her children. She couldn't protect them. And this is a very difficult situation for parents, as you all know, because this is our first mission, to protect our children, and she couldn't do that. So what she needed me to help her is to understand the situation so she can help her daughter understand what's happening to her in the car. And this has been our mission since October 7th, to help those parents to be able to talk to the children better, to talk to the children about those difficult things, because otherwise those children develop psychopathology. Their body shows they have sleep problems, eating problems, they wet their beds, they show aggression, depression, anxiety, and this of course hurt their development. So what we do as child professionals, mental health professionals, is we help the parents to help the children better, so they can find again, the parents can find again the balance and their security as parents, even though she has those bad feelings about her parenting, and then she can again find the way to help her children to fulfill and thrive. And
Nama, parenting under stress was always a situation in Israel, especially in the Negev, on the border of Gaza, the Gaza envelope, a lot of rockets attacks. How did October 7th really change things dramatically, or did it not?
it's true what you're saying, and if we think about it, most of the parents in Gaza border, they have been experiencing the bombing since they are in their adolescence years. So many are post-traumatized already. They have this cumulative post-trauma and stress, of course. The difference is that they always knew that they can trust the country and that they can trust the army. And this is now different because they have a trust issue now. The army didn't come. They have lots of questions about what's happening with the government. And the sense of security has really changed. In addition to that, all parents in all the country, not only in the south and not only in the north. I live in Tel Aviv. We keep running to the shelter all the time. So you can see parents in Tel Aviv, in Rishon LeZion, in Rehovot, all around the country, putting their children asleep at night, and the 4, the 5, the 3 years old children will ask them, what will happen if the alarms go on at night? So everybody has here in our back of the mind this question, are we safe? Can you protect me? And this is very, very difficult for children to develop when they don't have the sense of security. I want to say one new thing or a unique
Thank you, by the way.
situation.
That was really insightful.
Okay, a unique situation that we have now is with the reserve duty. Families where the fathers mostly, or even sometimes the mother goes on reserve duty. Those families, they are families at risk. We know that. We have a research, by the way. I am a researcher at the university. I'm a clinician and researcher. And in my lab with my student, we do research on parenting. And one of the research that we have is that we show that the sound that is a trigger for those people. So even parents that live in the Gaza border and on reserve duty throughout the country, all parents, when they have big noises or loud noises, it can be a trigger for their trauma. And as you know, at least in Israel, children are loud. So what happens when the children shout or when they fight? How can the father or the mother handle that? And children need their parents to be there to help them in their conflicts and in their frustration. And what we aim now at Duet
Do
is
any loud noises trigger them, or just like the red alert, the siren?
no, it can be any loud noises, even babies cry. We have a study, beautiful study that has been published that shows that when they hear a baby cry, they interpret it as being in distress and that they cannot handle it. They must stop it. So what happens is that they react very, very quickly, and in a way, they react in a manner that doesn't always fit to the child's needs. And this is a problem because it can affect badly the child's self-regulation, as we know. So this is a big project that we aim to get to reach to all families with the parents on reserve duty, help the fathers that have been combating, and it was very, very frightening out there, but also it was very clear what we have to do. And then they come home and the children fight over a candy or over those simple and not really important things, but this is what children need to do, right? They are children and they cannot handle it. And also the mothers need some help because they have gone through very difficult things. And we consider them families at risk, and we have many of them all around the country. So I would just say that in Duet, we are located at Ben-Gurion University. We do research and intervention. That's why we do the duet between research and intervention, between child and the parent. But the way we work is through the community. So we go out to the community and we train the professional in the community at the different clinical units, and it's called capacity building. We want to build the natural capacity. We work with the natural forces in the community, and we train them on how to work with parents during this traumatic situation. And we have more than 2,000 people, professionals that have been trained in our program, which is an evidence-based. We studied our intervention. So there is a lot of work to do there because since October 7, and as we all know still now, constantly we have those reminders of the trauma, and we all are under fear. If you're going to measure our tension now, it's very, very high because of what happened yesterday on Qatar, right? Israel bombed Qatar. And so we are all now very, very distressed and stressed, expecting to see what will happen.
What happens next?
And when you are a young child, what you do is you look at your parents. So think about those young children. They look at the parents all the time. And if they see a parent who is very stressed, they understand that the situation is bad. So our aim as professional is to work with the parents so that they can better take care of themselves firstly, and then at their children.
Okay, thank you very much. I know you have a presentation, but I think we'll bring in Gal, and then we
can I just say one small thing?
Yep.
which I want to stress, and then I'll pass to Gal, who will continue. There are many programs that stress that they need to work on trauma. I believe in what we do is we look at the future. When we work mainly with young children, although it's overall with children, so we take care, we consider the trauma that they experience, but my mission is to help them find a way for the future, for the hope. And this is one of the things that is unique about our understanding of child development, is that children take us to the future. That's the beauty of children. They go on and they want to develop, and we need to help their parents find again their steps, their security, to be able to go with their children to a better future.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nama. And also for the audience, Nama was talking about the challenge of being a reservist and also a parent, and the challenge of being a parent who's married to a reservist, and then the reservist comes home and isn't ready to handle the kids because they're suffering their own PTSD. At Ben-Gurion University, we have more than 7,000 members of our community that have served in reserve duty, Miloim, 6,000 of them students, which is 1/3 of the student population. So it had an incredible impact on us. We still have about 2,000 serving, including Gal's son, who he'll talk about maybe in a little bit. So I want to introduce Gal, Professor Gal Meiri. He's one of our faculty members, and he teaches at the medical school, which is also part of the Faculty of Health Sciences. He's the medical director of the Israeli National Center for Autism and Neurodevelopment Research at Ben-Gurion University. He is also the head of the Child and Adolescent Psychiatric Unit at Soroka Medical Center, which is across the street from the university, and has played a pivotal role in trying to heal the youth of the Negev in Israel. Professor Meiri, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for having me. It feels, despite the fact that I don't see all the people, like being in a family, maybe one of my extended families. And so for me, Ben-Gurion is personal. I'll just say briefly, because I know we don't have a lot of time, is that I graduated med school in BGU. My wife also graduated from BGU. She has a PhD in mechanical engineering. My son is about to graduate engineering studying, if the war will allow him to end his degree at some point. And my oldest son, Yuval, is actually also graduated from behavioral science. So we are four members from the same family, all BGU. And actually, I owe my marriages also to BGU, because me and my wife Nora, we knew each other as medical students more than 30 years ago, and here we are still in the Negev and teaching others, and being at least for myself highly involved in BGU and in the community. I would like to share with you briefly the day of October 7th, which was the worst day in Israel history from my point of view, and just to say a few things that happened to me this day. Every time there are missiles in the south, we go immediately to the Soroka emergency room, and when we have our department over there at the emergency room, is that we see people with acute stress reaction and other anxiety and trauma responses. So doing that, I live in Lehavim, which is next to Beersheba. You have to take your car. You know you'll have sirens on your way, and you'll have probably missiles. So on my way to the emergency room, I had to stop the car and lie by the road, when missiles were above my head 3 times until
This is on your way to work on October 7th?
Yeah, Yeah, that was my morning at the October 7th. And I arrived eventually safely to Soroka and to the emergency room. At the beginning, of course, nobody could imagine what this day will look like. Other things that are not spoken, my first patients were Bedouin children because, missiles were flying all over the Negev. They didn't pick any specific place. They were targeting big cities and places, but Bedouins that have no shelters were hit very, very badly. Few people died, and a lot of kids were with acute stress reaction. So we started to take care of them. And at the same time, I had one resident, Sapir Biton. If anybody want to hear her story, it's really an impressive story. She was a new resident and she actually ended her first, she was on call that night. And her family, she lives in Kibbutz Erez, which is next to Zeotef. So by the time she ended her call on Saturday morning, she got a call from her husband with her two little kids, 3 and 1. Please come to the kibbutz. I have to go to fight the Hamas, the Nukhba, and she wanted to go. And then somebody stopped her really in the parking lot of Soroka saying, it's not safe, they are on their own now. You shouldn't go because you might be killed on your way to them. So she went back to the emergency room. She was, of course, you can just imagine knowing that her husband and two kids are over there under risk, and people are killed all over, and she decided she want to work. So she started to treat patients, and then we had arrivals from the Nova party, and after that we had soldiers and officers, and then citizens from Beersheba and other cities around the Otef, Ofakim, and all that. Eventually, this specific story ended okay because her husband and two kids survived, and at night time they were rescued by the army, and they all met
God.
in Sde Boker. She was born and raised in Sde Boker. Her father is also a physician, and they all met over there. I would tell you also that at that day we were in a ongoing, a continuous trying to see how is all our employees because we had few employees that are working in the OTF. So we had few of them that were actually under attack, and
The
our
OTEF means the envelope, the area, the
the
communities around the
envelope,
Gaza border.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we all of them survived, but lost a lot of friends and family members. And at that same day, my two sons that I just told you about them, Asaf and Yuval, they all were called immediately to go to the army.
Yeah.
And so you are doing what you can do at the emergency room. And at some point, there were not only kids, and we helped also to the adult people that are adult psychiatrists because they were overflooded with people. And at that time, we are in our mind we hold the fact that some people of that work with us, our friends, our colleagues, are under attack in the kibbutzim and the moshavim next to the border, and that my two sons are now going for an unknown time, unknown period to Gaza or I don't know where. So this was
You told
kind
me
of
earlier that Asaf just got called up for his 5th tour, right? And he's going
yeah.
for
Asaf Asaf is getting married in December. So yesterday night we were choosing his clothing as closest to the wedding. But then on Sunday he's going to another 70 days to serve. And his combat, he was in Givati. So and in Leavim, we hear the bombing now every night, and of course the war with Iran is still going. So usually I combine since I'm an MD and I'm in charge of a big services in Soroka. In everyday life, I always combine research and as I did with Naama for many years. It's very natural for me to speak with Naama because we are close friends and we worked together for many years. And actually, my first studies were with Naama that initiated research about child-parent relationship, and our preschool psychiatric unit was a really good place for her to be as a clinician and as a researcher. So we worked together many years.
Could you
And
talk a
then,
little bit about, because I know you're the head of the Child and Adolescent Psychiatric Unit, which I'm sure was busy before October 7th. Could you explain
well,
maybe the volume and how the caseload has changed
oh,
during those?
the caseload dramatically. We see, of course, a shift of, as you said at the beginning, Doug. It's really you can't call it PTSD because it's a P, maybe perpetu sorry for my English. So it's not post-traumatic stress disorder. It's an
Perpetual.
ongoing.
I promise your English is better than my Ivrit, so you're doing great.
It's really ongoing, and the war is Gaza is still there. And when we have the services in Soroka are divided for few clinics. We have preschool, we have school and adolescents, and I also have an eating disorder department. Uh, Interestingly, we have many patients from the envelope before the war, and when the war started, they were hospitalized and, of course, very worried about their families in the kibbutzim and the surrounding of the envelope. So this is maybe also the high risk of this population to many psychopathologies. So we see two things. We see a lot of new referrals of PTSD from and stress-related disorders, and we see that patients with kids and adolescents with previously had ADHD or other diagnosis or even autism, we see regression
Mm,
and we see deterioration, and we see that many of their symptoms are more extreme.
mm,
And so we see all of that. And the one thing that we are doing is really trying to get more people. We opened a new crisis intervention center. We are trying to recruit more people. Uh, Part of you maybe are aware of the differences between periphery and Tel Aviv in Israel. So this is also problematic in terms of recruiting new people that will work with us. And I also initiated a project with Sderot because in the envelope towns and kibbutzim and moshavim like Sderot and all the kibbutzim in the Otef, of course, the need is very high, and there are not that many people that are coming. So once a week, one of my physicians and all child psychiatrists and also myself, we go to Sderot and we help them with the kids that need this kind of professional support. I have also to say that unfortunately, since I'm so busy with trying to take care of all the patients and trying to arrange all my stuff. These 2 years, I had to decrease the intensity of my studies and my research activity. I hope that once things hopefully will stabilize and can go again. We did do some studies with Nama and with others to see the effects of the war, and to also not only to do it clinically, but also to have findings that will help us to treat the children and the community better. And as Naama said, we know it for many years, but we also, of course, know it now that the mental health of the parents is so crucial to the recovery and to the mental health of their kids. So there is a lot of emphasis of working with the parents and working with child-parent psychotherapy. If I have an example, if I have some time, I can give one more short example of this connection.
Go for it, and then we'll bring Nama back. Go ahead.
So as you probably know, on October 7th, the invasion of the Hamas, the Nukhba, it didn't reach to Beersheba. And I see kids with autism for follow-up visits routinely. And when we went back to kind of routine, and I invited a family, it was like 6 months after the war started, and a child 5 years old arrived with autism, and the mother was saying, there is I always ask, we always start these days with questions about the situation and how people feels about what's happening and what is the responses of the parents and the other kids. And the mother was saying, things really got worse at home. And I said, can you elaborate? Can you talk a little bit more about it? She said, actually, my husband is having PTSD from the last war. And once the attack started, he was sure that they will arrive to Beersheba. He did really, he closed the house totally, and he called his brother, and they were guarding the house in shifts, and he didn't let the kids go out. And his kid with autism and really that with sensory problems that really needs the space, he was closed for 10 days at home with no option to breathe some air or to run outside. And this was really a deterioration that was, this is kind of, you say, okay, it was only Beersheba, it's not Sderot, it's not a kibbutz in the Otef. No, nobody was hurt, but you can see the other damages or the problems of the war. And the big achievement of this session was not something or new medication for the child, but that I convinced the father to go to take treatment therapy for himself.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to just ask you, but we could bring Nama in. One question I have is, how do you help yourselves to help others during all this situation, which is so stressful, not just on the community, but on the practitioners?
I think we are very busy with that question. For example, Naama and me, we used to talk a lot at least at the beginning of the war, and we do it a lot with our colleagues and with our friends, and we support each other. I have workers that, like me, have at my age that have kids that are now in the reserve. I have workers, women that their husbands are now in Gaza. So it's an ongoing situation that you have to support. And I have, of course, employees that their sons are in Gaza now. So it's all over the place. And we specifically in Soroka and also with BGU, we are trying also to do a specific effort to see if there are colleagues of us or students or staff that are in high risk, and we're trying to give them a specific support. For example, that the first 2 weeks of the war, we gathered all together after every day that we took care of other people to kind of ventilate and to support ourselves. And then we continue it like an ongoing thing of supporting each other in the team, because this, Naama and me, we have a lot of clinical and research experience, but who could imagine? I mean, nobody can prepare you to something like that as a human being and as a professional. So even in terms of really knowing what to do, we are learning it together, and we're still continue to learn it because it's still didn't we can't talk about the post. We are still in it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should say that at the beginning it was a shock for all of us, and we all acted. We know that when the emotion is very high, so we need to do. The doing really help, and we were lucky that we have this profession that we can help others. But now, unfortunately, we are all in a stage of somehow a despair, because it's like this cumulative stress again and again and again. We still hope, we have hope, and it will be better, I'm sure. But this situation really requests from us to take care of ourselves. And we go to therapy. We don't only do, I go to therapy, and I think it's really important. I treat families where the fathers were killed and the mother needs now to take care of the young children and help them understand what happened to the father and how can we go on. And so many tragedy that it touches us, of course, and we need to protect ourselves. And yeah, we go ourselves to therapy and we talk to each other, like God says, to colleague, and we do. That's why we're here, I think. And that's why we go to work with all the time with the creativity and our abilities. We create new ways to help others, and this helps also ourselves.
Well, on behalf of us here at Americans for Ben-Gurion University, please take care of yourselves and your family so that you can continue to support the broader community. We got a question from Abigail in the Q&A about how you assess what particular mental disorder someone's suffering from, and then how you match that to the right therapy.
Well, what we do is we try to understand how it affects their everyday behavior. So how much they can adjust to the normal development, normal behavior, so that they can continue to thrive and to develop. And some children and parents, what we see is that we need, they are in this junction where they feel the stress. They're being frightened about that. Let's talk about the parents. They're being frightened. They don't know if something happened to their child. The child doesn't want to leave them, and or the child doesn't want to go to sleep. Those small normative things, but in this context, we may be very worried about that. So in that case, we can help the parent understand that this may be like a normative behavior to a very non-normative and stressful situation. But then if we see that after giving some explanation, the parents doesn't manage to change the behavior or to calm down, then we understand that something is blocking the parent's ability to make the change. For example, if we tell the parents that it would be good to have a routine at night so that the child can feel safe, and then it will help the child to go to sleep, and we see that the parents still can't do that, then it's a more severe situation, and then we need to talk to the parents and see, we call it reflective functioning. What's the father or the mother is thinking? Why are they so worried? What's going on in their mind? And from there, we're better able to decide what sort of intervention we can provide them with.
Yeah. Gal, do you have any comments on that?
I can just really agree with Naama. We are really trying to see it also in a time frame to see what are the responses to our initial psychoeducational work that we do with parents and the guidance that we give them at the very beginning. And it is always we have to remember that it's always triggered by the events, because and you need it's not like in the past you knew when you have we have communities and families with a lot of resiliency, but in these days it is challenges by repeated trauma and repeated stress. So even if you have one family or parents that you know that they were okay for the first time, you need to, what we are also trying to do is to invite them, even if everything looks okay, to invite them to follow-up session to see that it's really okay, and that they're really getting better, or really learn to struggle and to have strategic to cope with their own issues as parents, and also to take care of their kids. I don't know why it reminded me also this mother that told me that her son is okay. He was 7 years old, I think, but she said, and they live in Ofakim. Ofakim also had Nukhba terrorists, and 52 people died in Ofakim. And she said he seems to be okay, but every weekend he seems to get worse, and is agitated, and sometimes he's misbehaving. And it got to the point after I talked with them again that actually that's his specific PTSD symptoms, because every Saturday remind him Saturday morning, and the October 7th Saturday morning. So that's his kind of trigger for memories, and it took them like few months to understand that that's really the issue.
We're
So
starting to run out of time, but we're also getting a lot of questions from the audience, and nobody's
sure.
dropped off. So we're going to extend this webinar just a few more minutes. We just received a question from Barry Klarman, and also an anonymous question. I'll just ask the questions and either of you could respond. Barry's asking, have you discovered some new creative ways through all of this terrible situation? Has creativity created innovation in how you treat mental illness and stress? And then the anonymous question relates to autistic patients. Any specific therapies for autistic children, etc.?
I'll start with the first question. Yes, we have become professional in infant and child trauma therapy, and now we give talks all around the world for all the infant and child mental health professional. Unfortunately, we have so much experience now. So we do understand that having, for example, parents together, like all the idea of group intervention is so powerful now, because what we need when we feel anxiety, stress, when we feel uncertainty, loss of control, is we need to be together. And when we have parents together and when we have teachers together, we haven't spoken about all the education system, which is also, they're also in a shared reality and a shared trauma, and they have to take care of the children. So when we put them together in a group, there is something very powerful about the ability to talk about what happened to us. And more than that, to talk about how can we go on and see how they can support each other. So we understand nowadays more than ever that the community can help each other. What we need to do, and that's the beautiful of community intervention, because what we want to do is to prevent a more severe problems that may arise if we don't intervene now. So we're talking about prevention, and that's why we want to try and get to as many professionals out there in the population and help them treat in a preventive way. So to go, for example, to a school, to go to the community centers and work with parents, even before the children have some symptoms, and then they go to the psychiatric clinic. As we know that so many children now show symptoms, meaning what the meaning of symptom in a child is that the a way for the child to say, I feel stressed, I feel uncertain, I need some help. And many parents feel difficult to help their children because it's frightening. So what we found is that we must have a community model, develop the community models, and this is what we have been doing. And one more thing, and I'll let Gad talk about maybe the intervention with autism, is that we know that when we feel stress, our way of thinking shrinks. We can't think very widely because we are in a survival mode. So, and this creates a helpless feeling. So what we try to work with parents is to try and within in the clinic or in the community is to try and open as many options as they can, like to play with the imagination, to open possible ideas of why their children behave in that way. And in a way, it's like providing some oxygen to the brain so that things can go on, because we know that they get into stressful situation and then they don't know what to do. So that's another thing. We help them in the reflective way to try and reflect and play with their ideas, and then they can be more flexible in the way they think about their children and about themselves. And we see that from there, they are better able to go back to their natural parenting behavior. So that's another thing that we found, that it's a way to handle the trauma.
I will just add to that that Nama was talking about prevention, so I'm now more aware that we need to really intervene as soon as possible. So, for example, the last missiles that hit Beersheba, and you had actually a few photos of the building in Soroka with the BGU labs in it that was severely damaged. And of course, this missile damaged all our clinics in Soroka and many other buildings, not only the one with a direct hit. This is another talk maybe, but what we did is prevention in terms of going to the staff and asking people if they have, how do they feel, and even in the obstetric building, since we are so, Naama and I, we are working with all the ages, but we are mainly preschool and infant psychiatrists and psychologists. So we went to the obstetric department. We know that the child mother infant relationship start from the very beginning over there, and you can just imagine what happened to a woman that just gave birth and she's there with her 2 hours or 12 hours year old kid and having this bomb in her in this hospital. So you can think what can it do to her breastfeeding, to her stress hormones, and to the relationships with the infant. So we are really we're doing preventive work with really screening to see if there are any mothers and that are in risk. And I would say about autism is that we did also some things from that we learned with Nama about group therapy with parents of autistic children, and maybe even more awareness of the sensory part of the autistic kids, which actually gives them put them in a higher risk to develop PTSD. So despite what people think about autism, oh, they are autistic, they don't understand what's happening. Some of them are highly intelligent and they feel the anxiety, they feel the stress, they see the parents' responses, and they are very sensitive in their sensory profile. So you have to be highly aware of that. And we see that some of the deterioration has to do with being sensory overwhelmed and flooded. So this is also taking into account in the therapy.
Thank you very much. We need to wrap up. We have two last questions, and then I'll close the program. Jared Mel's just asking, what do you need? What do you need to support you to do your work?
No, I thought in general, I wanted to see if it can do something with the hostages and the situation in Israel, but no. what our mission at the moment is to go to specific at-risk population. One, as I said before, is to get to all families where the parents are on reserve duty and provide them with our intervention. So this is a very top mission of us, which of course we hope to be able to do that. And in a way, it's simple if we're able to, not simple, but it's feasible if we are able to do that, because they're organized in a certain way, so we can approach them. And I think I'm having many fathers that are on reserve duty in my clinic, and I see how much they want that. So I believe that it can be a good way to provide the community what they need. And another group is families with babies, with infants. This is almost a transparent and neglect group, because infant and babies, they feel everything and they are harmed by that, and the body remembers even if they don't know about that. And if we'll intervene now with them, so we can prevent many problems ahead. But one of the big things that we hope, and this is a dream, I have it, I like to have a dream and then to try and reach it. The dream is to open the BGU Research and Intervention Center. We have a plan for that, a center that we can train all the professionals around Israel about infant mental health work in trauma, and also to provide more services to the community in the Negev, because the waiting list at the GAL's unit is very high, and we need to have more services for those even that have small symptoms, early symptoms, before it becomes more severe. So that's our mission, to have this big
research and
intervention.
clinical lab at BGU for infant
Yeah.
mental health.
Yes, I would.
Gal, how about you? What do you
I
need?
would add that I would add to that. Of course, I sign every word that Nama said about that, and the need is very high. And I think I don't expect that donors will give money for clinical services that Ministry of Health should provide to the population. But I think I have Naama and I are dreaming together as those dreams, and of course we are collaborating all over the years. And I had two more specific thought about things that I would like to do in the near future. One is to trying to. I was a combat soldier and officer myself, and I participated in few the past wars, and I have a dream to do something with collaboration with other professional people for medical students and other students that were combat at war and returned to med school, and to support them, and to do such an intervention and combined with research to support students at BGUs that were in combat situation. And also for the interventions that I started in Sderot in the Otef, I am very busy with managing the clinical part of it. And I would also like to add a research unit to see that, to measure our interventions and to see its efficiency and to see what works better for this kind of specific population. So this is also one small dream that I have for the near future.
All right. Thank you so much, Gal and Nama, for joining us today. We did have one statement from Philip Gompertz, one of our retired employees. I just want to share it with everybody, that we hope that the degree to which it's okay from a privacy standpoint that these cases are being documented, so that we can make generalizable results available to help not just Israel in the future, but the rest of the world understand what you've been through, and how Israel can help, even though it suffered through this, with solutions, novel solutions for mental illness around the world. At the end of the day, we're still that light unto the nations, and that's the work that you do. So thank you so much. For those of you who would like to help, we have launched a Recovery and Resilience Fund. You can click on this QR code to make a donation. There's an estimated close to $40 million of damage to the university from the Iranian missile attacks, 30 buildings damaged, 9 laboratories destroyed, our classrooms for the medical school having to be relocated to the main campus so Soroka could use them for hospital beds, stipends for our reservist soldiers, financial support for the 100 families that lost their homes from the missile attacks. That goes on and on. So please, if you're in a position to help, please do so. Well, I'm getting an alarm here, but I think that's local. Let me see if I can find that. Wow, that's crazy. Anyway, so please, if you're interested, please support this Recovery and Resilience Fund. We have some events coming up that you won't want to miss. BGU is sponsoring a program on September 17th at noon that is called BGU Live. You can find out more information on our website. And then we have our New York City benefit on October 19th, which is going to be a terrific program celebrating and really honoring the role of the Goldman Medical School through its history and its role on October 7th, and importantly, the future. We're going to feature Sasha Trufanoff, who is one of our students who spent way too many days, over 400 days in captivity as a hostage. Noah Shuker, who did more than 400 days of reserve duty as a medical student. And also at the end of the program, we're going to laugh because even though we're doing a lot of crying, it's important to laugh right now. And Alex Edelman, the award-winning comedian, will be doing a performance. So that's in New York City. Everybody's welcome to attend. Tickets start at $180 on October 19th. And then once again, we're bringing Ben-Gurion Day in the USA on November 19th. Please help us get the word out to your congregations and Hebrew schools. We love to partner with other organizations to honor and share the legacy of the great David Ben-Gurion. David Ben-Gurion, who I lovingly refer to sometimes as the #2 Jew all time, and also the namesake of our university, had so many great sayings. One of them was that we sought to build a scientific research and teaching center, which would be a source of moral inspiration and courage, rousing people to a sense of mission, noble or creative, and fruitful. And I think after speaking to Naama and Gal, even though we're in a very difficult situation, have been for now close to 2 years, hopefully you feel inspired about the work that BGU is doing and the promise that the university, the Negev, and the country has for the future. I want to wish you all a Shana Tova. May this be as happy as can be in these difficult times, and importantly, healthy new year. Thank you for joining us.